Okay, shall we put this into a bit more of a practical situation? So here we've got two right angle triangles, and the eventual aim is to find x, but we're going to have to do a little bit more work before we can do that. Can't just do it in one step. So we might need to find some other information before we find x. What do you suggest we do next, Miss Hughes?
Well, the fact that I've got a right angle triangle here means that's 90, 45, and angles in a triangle add to 180, so this has to be 45 as well. And this is an isosceles triangle. So that's one thing I can remember. Shall we maybe try and find this middle side if we can?
Good
that
idea.
might lead us on to that one.
Because it's common, isn't it? That middle side there that you're labelling y, it's common to both triangles, so that probably is going to help us, as opposed to finding the other side of that bottom triangle there.
So if we start with this angle here, shall we label our sides? So always easiest to label the hypotenuse first. Then the opposite, which is this one, and then the adjacent. So we're interested in the adjacent, and we want to find the hypotenuse. That's our unknown, so we need h and a. So Car, is that right? Okay. So we're going to use cos. Oops, I can stay with green. So cos of 45 is adjacent, which is 6, over the hypotenuse, which is y.
Okay.
Now, what does your class do here, Mr. D?
Well, we need to get y by itself. It kind of depends. Some people can go straight to making y equals. Others like to take 2 steps. So maybe we should do it in 2 steps just in case. So it helps if we don't have a fraction to start with. So if I multiply both sides by y, that will get rid of the denominator there.
So multiply both sides by y gives us y cos 45 equals 6. Yep.
Yeah.
And then divide by cos 45.
Yeah.
Good.
And we realize that some of you can go straight to that step, and that's okay. Now, we actually can go, we're not finished yet, are we? Because we're doing this question without a calculator. And we're wanting to find the exact value of x. And that means that we shouldn't be using a calculator. We shouldn't get big long decimals as our answer either. And we know from our triangles that we can get an exact value for cos 45. So that means we need to remember what the triangle looks like. Miss Hughes is just drawing it now. And remember the 45 triangle comes from the square with side 1.
And using Pythagoras gives us root 2.
Okay. So we want cos 45. So I start at the angle of 45. And I know that cos comes from the car, the SOHCAHTOA. So I need adjacent and hypotenuse. So we can see from the triangle there that cos 45 is equal to 1 over root 2. So I can now replace that into our working out here. Okay, now probably not very nice to have fraction over fraction.
No.
Nice if we can simplify that a little bit.
Yeah, so we need to remember that dividing by a fraction means you multiply by the reciprocal.
Yeah.
So the reciprocal of 1 over root 2 is root 2 over 1. So this summarizes to 6 root 2.
Good. So that's the exact value of y. That's important to remember.
So I'm going to go back here and just rub out this little bit to make it clearer. And write in what we got, which was 6 root 2.
Anytime in a question where you see the words exact value, it means that you're going to have to use your triangles.
Yep. Okay, so we've got y.
So we can now look at the other triangle now. Maybe we can actually look at answering the question to find x.
So we're going to use this angle now here. So we need to label our sides. So this side here now becomes, well, sorry, we should start with the hypotenuse, which in this case is this one. All right, so you just need to be careful because earlier the hypotenuse was this one, but that was for this triangle. For this triangle here, this is the hypotenuse. It's opposite the right angle.
Good tip.
This is the opposite, and this is the adjacent. And we're not really interested in the adjacent because it's the blank side. So, O and H, what are we going to use?
I think it might be sine from
right.
SOHCAHTOA.
Okay, so sine 60 is opposite, which is 6 over root 2.
6 root 2.
Oh, thank you. Let's rewind. Let's get that right. So back to red pen. 6 root 2 over x. I'm just going to draw a line here so it doesn't get all confusing. Okay, shall I show you what somebody in my class suggested for this, which I hadn't seen until this year, is when have x on the bottom, it's a good idea to reciprocate both sides. So if you make that a 1, the invisible denominator is 1, and then if you reciprocate both sides, then you end up with, x over 6 root 2, and then it's a little bit easier to make x a subject just by multiplying by 6 root 2. So that gives us x equals 6 root 2 over sine 60.
Good idea.
Yeah, and we would normally get our calculator at this stage, but this would be a non-calculator question, so
we need to work out what sine 60 is. It means I think we need one of our triangles.
We need another triangle. Should we get another colour?
Yep.
Keep it interesting. Right, let's go for purple. So we start off with the 60, 60, 60, an equilateral triangle of 2, 2, 2. That's all you need to start with, really. And then you work from there. So we split it into 2. Remembering that's 60, so that becomes 30. And at that point, we can either draw the triangle again or we can erase this side. Just being careful to make the bottom side now 1. And then if you apply Pythagoras, let's just do it quickly over here because this is what we would do in the test as well. 2 squared is 1 squared plus x squared. So 4 equals 1 plus x squared gives us x squared is 3. So x is root 3. Okay, what is it we wanted?
Sine 60.
Sine 60.
So we have to go from that 60 angle. And we know sine from our SOHCAHTOA is opposite over hypotenuse. So we need to find the opposite. And so we can say sine 60 is root 3 because that's opposite 60 over the hypotenuse, which is 2.
Okay, so if we bring that back up here, let's go back to the red, which was the problem we were working on. Gives us, I've called different things x. Hopefully that hasn't confused you too much. X equals 6 root 2 over sine 60, which is this, over root 3 over 2 again. To divide, by a fraction is to multiply by the reciprocal. So that's 6 root 2 times the reciprocal, which is 2 over root 3. And simplifying that gives us the 6 times the 2 will give us 12. And then we've got root 2, over root 3. That's a 2.
Okay, so you just need to remember the triangles, and remember anytime you see the question with the word exact in it, it means you must use the triangles. A calculator answer would not be acceptable here.
No. It's kind of counterintuitive, but the calculator gives you a value that is, for example, 0.37298. And it looks like it's very exact, but actually it's rounded off. This number carries on forever. So the calculator is not exact. Not exact. Whereas the answer we've given here is an exact answer.
All right. Good luck.